Buenas tardes, familia. Marángeli Mejía-Rabell aquí del Philadelphia Latino Film Festival. It is an honor to have the opportunity to be part of this wonderful conversations with our filmmakers of our 2023 edition. And we're going to begin with a round of introductions. So in my case, my name is Marángeli, and you can call me Maggie. And I have the honor to serve as Festival Director and Chief Curator for PHLAFF. Who's next?
Hi, how you doing? I'm Tristan Anthony Ortiz. I am the writer and director of Baila Conmigo.
Hello, I am Roberto Urzua. I am the director of Mapukuchan.
My name is Sienna Serrano, and I am the writer and director of A Bearable Life.
My name is André Almeida Rodrigues, and I'm director of the film Return to Childhood Home Before the Last Farewell.
My name is Maria Valdez, and I'm the writer-director of the short film Vida.
My name is Miranda Montenegro, and I'm a filmmaker based in LA, and I'm so honored to have my film US versus Beltran screen at Philadelphia Latino Film Festival. And it's a pleasure to be on the Zoom call with you all.
So we're going to get into the first question, which has to do with inspiration and challenges. Inspiraciones y desafíos. So la pregunta es, ¿qué te inspiró a hacer esta película y cuál fue la parte más desafiante de tu proceso como realizador o realizadora? What inspired you to make the film, and what was the most challenging part of your filmmaking process?
So what inspired me to make Baila Conmigo was a big inspiration was my own mother. My mother, she was diagnosed with a very deteriorating condition, and I wanted to find a way to kind of visually express that, and as well as kind of express how I felt within my own Puerto Rican culture. Baila Conmigo revolves around a main character, and where he kind of doesn't feel like he fits in to his Spanish upbringing. And there's, a lot of people who grew up that way, that they grew up more in the States than they did in their own, home country. So they feel more American than anything, right? They have no accent, they can barely speak Spanish, and trying to balance those two sides of a story, trying to see how I can blend it into two. But the biggest inspiration was my mother, and how I want to express my love for her, and what it means, like how I wanted to show how important the love of a mother is, and how motherhood can transcend, entire lifetimes, And I would say the most challenging part of the process was, I wouldn't even say it was challenging, but more so, I was very picky about my casting. My casting had to be very specific. I was looking for people who could, portray the level of depth that I was wanting, the level of heart. They had to have, chemistry together. They had to have, especially the main character, he had to have this look in where, you felt for him, right? You felt that he felt out of place. He was a fish out of water in his own family, but not leaning too much one way or the other, but he's sort of in this awkward middle, right? And so as the film goes on, we start to see that there's a deeper story there, and they had to bring a level of emotion that that was unprecedented for me. So I would say the most challenging part was finding the right people to cast, and making sure that they can portray the characters how I need them to be portrayed,
I think that I have multiple inspirations. One of them is a film called Koyaanisqatsi that blew my mind when I saw it, because it's only music and image, like a lot of time lapse. And my movie Mapukuchan is a movie that is all done with aerial images and music. And so that was a big inspiration for me. Like, the kind of movie that I wanted to do was one inspiring that movie. And also other inspiration was the indigenous people of Chile, they're the Mapuche. They have a lot of history because they were the only ones that resist the Spanish invasion, like until they have a limit, una frontera, and they could live in an independent way. So that was a big inspiration for me to know more about them, because in our country they don't talk about them at all. In history classes, you have like 2 classes to know everything about them. So I wanted to know more about that. So I take courses with a Mapudungun teacher that later was one of the presidents of the assembly that made the new constitution in Chile, that tried to make. So she was also a very big inspiration because of all of her story. And the most challenging part, I think that it was like all the time, because I was shooting for about 4 years to make a 29-minute short film, because I didn't know that I was going to make a movie at the beginning. I was only shooting and shooting with my drone everywhere, and like all the places that I could. And then I started editing in the pandemic, like making experiments until I have one first version, and then I started to write. I think that was one of the challenging things, like to write this voiceover that includes all my feelings about Mapuche culture and all the social process that we live in Chile in the past few years.
Thank you so much. Sienna?
I guess what inspired me to make my film was just my life in general. Growing up Mexican American in an Asian American community. I live in the San Gabriel Valley in California, which is in Southern California. And I just always felt very different and just how I lived. And I never really saw like what I went through and like just my life in general on screen and just anywhere. And I just decided that instead of kind of chasing other people like and their dreams and just helping, like being a part of a studio and just being a small cog, I thought I was like, you know what, I should make my own film, since I don't really see anything that relates to like me and how I live, and even with my friends and whatnot. And I thought it was just really interesting because growing up, my friends and I, like, there's so many parts of living in America and being a hyphenated kid, because culture, it's weird. It's like you live your life where culture is a big part of it, but then also there's American culture, and then it's just being human. And so I just wanted to write something that just, talked about that. And also what was really challenging making the film was I actually had a concussion while I was making it. I had the concussion before, and then that's when I was kind of like, I feel like I'm on my lowest point. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do something about it. And so there I was, even if it was like 5 minutes a day, trying to like work on it and then take a break for the rest of the day. I was just doing it because I thought this is very important, and I just wanted to connect with other people and just to see where it went. So, I mean, there wasn't a lot of, like, I guess, like, I didn't know where it was going to go, but I just knew I had to make this film. And so, yeah, that was kind of the process.
What inspired me to make the movie was the sale of my childhood home here in Lassa Valley, a town very near of Porto in Portugal. I left this house with 15 years old, But I always had access to the house because it was the house of my grandfathers. So it was never goodbye until my last year when we sold the house and felt the loss of a piece of my life. So the biggest challenge was only had a few days to shoot because the sale of the house. And the idea to produce the movie came to me one night when I was feeling asleep. I was falling asleep.
Thank you so much. Maria.
Hi, so my film Vida is a female-led action film, and what inspired me to make it is I wanted to occupy a space where we, women and especially women of color, are not normally, that we're not normally taking up that space. So I specifically wanted to do a genre film, world building, and a female-led action film. And within that, I was also inspired during the last administration to do a female empowerment film, a Latina female empowerment film. So the film was inspired by the women who were sterilized that were being held in an ICE detention center in Georgia in 2021. And, the countless women of color who are often sterilized without their consent. And also, all the Latinos who were being held in cages during the last administration. So seeing that, I had a visceral reaction to that. And, the one thing that I can do, to empower Latinos or empower, our community is to have them see us as powerful women with strength and with agency. So that's what my intention was, with this film. And I hope that, when audience sees this film, that they do feel empowered and they feel like, women can direct and write action films and see female women as leads in action film. So, that was my my inspiration. And I think probably the most challenging thing was we shot during COVID and the rules kept changing. So, at first it was like, how do you do an action film when we were supposed to be 6 feet apart? But luckily when we shot, we were able to, have contact. So, the pandemic was, quite an obstacle for us. For me, probably the most inspiring thing while I was shooting the film was, collaborating with other Latina filmmakers. My film was like 95% BIPOC, LGBTQ, cast and crew. And when you write something, you never know how it's going to come out. So to see the amount of talent that, that I was able to work with and having them bring my vision to life was, it was inspiring. So, I was very fortunate and I had an amazing time creating it.
So what inspired me to make this film is that my mother is a federal district judge, and around the time when I was writing the film and eventually went into like directing the film, my mom was in the middle of like a Senate confirmation hearing to become a federal district judge, and we flew up to DC, saw her being interrogated by senators, and then she came back home and then had to do a questionnaire. I mean, it's a whole process, and she was incredible and ended up getting confirmed by the Senate later in like March 2022. And I think just growing up with my mom and growing up around that world with like lawyers, judges, and just people in the legal community, I heard from one of her colleagues about these illegal detainments that happened in Texas, and I knew that I had to make a film about it. It felt like it was something that was so under the radar. We saw during the Trump administration, kids in cages and just like these horrific images, but this was something that I felt had not yet been like fully discussed. And I had the option to either do a documentary or a narrative fiction film, and I chose to do a narrative fiction film because I thought that'd be a great way to kind of to base a film on a family and use that family as like a microcosm for like all these like incidents that had happened. And also to just show people like, hey, even though this is a fiction film, this is incredibly real. And that's why I preface the film with almost this, about the statistics and the fact this is still very real. So that was what inspired me. And then I think the most challenging part of my filmmaking process was that I had 4 days to do the shoot. I filmed the entire film in 2 days, went back to dailies with my classmates and my professors at USC, and it was not working. It lacked drama, it lacked stakes. And I learned so much from watching my own work and seeing how what I had sought out to do was not reflected on the screen. And I quickly knew how to modify it. And I think what became the most challenging part of my film, which is refilming the entire film, and ended up becoming the most like impactful to my career, and also just learning to be open, collaborative, but then also assertive in my vision as well, and trying to find that balance, which is so difficult in filmmaking.
Thank you for sharing that. Now we go into another part of this process, which is collaboration. So how has collaboration impacted your filmmaking process and practice?
Oh man, collaboration, I think, is the heartbeat of filmmaking, right? I think filmmaking is one of the few things, one of the few crafts that you cannot achieve without a team. You have to have a team behind your team that understands what you're doing, your vision, and is willing to collaborate with you, right? And so collaboration for this film particularly was essential to the way it came out. I don't think the film would have came out the way it did if it wasn't for the biggest collaboration I had, other than my actors, the biggest collaboration I had was with my DP. My DP, he's also like another kind of like a creative partner with me. And we crafted a story. I mean, we spent weeks and weeks and weeks on the story, trying to craft it, every bit of dialogue, questioning every little thing they did. Why is he saying this? Why is she doing that? Why are they feeling this way? And all, starting from that, all the way down to the actual execution of, the look of the film. Why is it lit this way? Why, why is the blocking this way? So, collaboration, I feel, is all encompassing of filmmaking. And I don't think good films are made without it, because if someone is some people have a really strong creative vision, but I think things come out better when working together as a team. And I think that's the whole point of filmmaking, right? And so whether it's an actor saying a line differently, or give me one more take, I need to, I have an idea in mind, or says something else, like the gaffer saying, let me tweak the light here, I think it'll come down real nice on their eyes, stuff like that you as a director, you're thinking of, but you're not thinking of like that because you're in the moment. I think is what little details like that what brings everything together and creates this work of art. So,
well, the story of collaboration in Mapukutrani is very nice, because I started shooting with my compañera, mi enamorada, and my little daughter. When we go outside, we went to the mountain, or to the beaches, or wherever. So they were part of the team, like always being there. And later, I started composing the music with a friend. I mean, he did it, but it was a great process too. And the story of collaboration of the movie, I think it's very interesting, because people get touched by the movie and offer me things. I don't know. I showed the film in Panama last year, and a person that was watching the movie, there is a post-production, sound post-production, un postproductor de sonido. He told me that he loved the film and he wanted to help me, and he made a whole new version of the movie with sound post-production, and it changed a lot. So it is very nice when films I don't know, emocionan a la gente, like, and motivates them to make things to help. And I think that it's a very beautiful thing about filmmaking too.
Eso. Sienna?
Collaboration for me was, I guess, a little bit different and interesting in a way, because I didn't have, as a new filmmaker, I didn't have like the typical collaboration that you would have as a director writer, as in like AD, director of photography, all that kind of thing. For me, my collaboration was my family and friends around me. And I guess it's great, because even when you're starting out, you think that you need all these like the actual people, but in reality you just need people who support you. And in the end, like, making a story, which is what filmmaking is, and sharing that is about collaboration from people who support you. And so it was interesting, because a lot of my friends and family, like, they didn't know like all the things, what to do in the industry and like stuff like that. But they were like, do I need to hold this, or do I need to look this way or that? And, and I think it even worked even better, because they had a different perspective. So they're not thinking in the typical way. They're just thinking of like, oh, this would be cool if I added this and that. And it just made it even more of what I could even think about as a director or writer. And in the end too, it was just, fun for me just to even collaborate with people, because in the end of the day, it's an event that I get to record and share with people in the future, hopefully. And it's just kind of like me remembering of like, oh, I had so much fun making this and sharing it and whatnot. And yeah, because if you're not having fun making a film, then why are you even a filmmaker? Because you should be having fun, just sharing stories and just, having this as a career, because obviously, especially for people like us, it's, kind of hard to get our stories out there. And so we, that it's legit and that we really care, because we're out here trying to sell and show our stories and just, connect with community, which is, what I like doing. So yeah, that's kind of how the collaboration impacted my process.
Thank you so much for that. Eso es. André?
The collaboration is always important, because the teamwork. I will say that my movie belongs to all the people who collaborated with me, and the film is not only me. I am only the director and the producer of this film. This is all other people's. So I always value the opinions of the people who collaborate with me. If not, the movie is just my point of view, and it can be bad to the movie. In this film, I come with collaboration of Manuel Silva, who's already collaborated with me since the final film of my master's degree. Also come with the collaboration of Kevin McLeod. I sent an email to Kevin with the link of the film, and I informed that I was going to use this music. David Joar is a designer I found in the Fever, and also Nunco Team and Brunlate, my friends who reviewed the translations to English and to French.
María, háblanos, cuéntanos.
I mean, for me, collaboration is everything. My film is about community and bringing people together and, lifting people up. So I think my set had that same tone. There's nothing more exciting than working with people, and they just elevate everything that you wrote and directed, and they bring their talents. And that for me is, you know, I was so lucky to work with exceptional people who brought their talents to work every day. I think one thing that I wasn't expecting, because I walked into it a little bit, you know, with a little bit of nerves, is collaborating with my DP and my stunt coordinator, because it was the first time directing action for me. But that process was probably one of the funnest experiences I've ever had on set. And how we, like, you know, choreographed everything, and how respectful the stunt coordinator was. And he took, you know, everything that I wrote and created a story within my story. And he, you know, he created every action scene with, it was, you know, thoughtful and with beats. And, you know, he took the time to, like, really look at the story, you know, as he, you know, as I wrote it, and that's how he coordinated the scene. So I really respected the fact that he was so thoughtful about that, and he took all my words into the choreography of directing the action scenes. So and my DP was also just, you know, also an incredible experience, all three of us working together to bring those scenes to life. So I would say it was probably the funnest part of making the film for me.
There's, you know, the term is that there is no I in team, and I 1000% agree with that. This film, even though I am the writer director, to me, like, it took a village, and I had a wonderful producer who, you know, was able to point out things, just whether it came to sound, whether it came to, hey, maybe we should just do maybe let's try a different variation on this. And also just creating a set, especially for US versus Beltran, in which everybody felt that they could share something, and that they didn't feel intimidated by the director above the line, and vice versa, like not letting it get to my head, or feeling prideful to maybe not have come up with, like, the best idea in the room, but being lucky enough to be with the person who came up with the best idea in the room. And always shifting that mentality to, it's not about me, it's about everybody here, and, like, we're all here to make a great film, and do whatever it takes to make it happen, and work with one another to make the best film possible, and you'll reap enormous benefit from it. And I also do want to mention that so I finished the film May 2022. Then I went to go work as a director's assistant on a Star Wars show a month after the film was completed. And on Star Wars, I worked with 7 directors, and I was their assistant. And watching big time directors coming in and talking to every department head, and every department being so open to just everybody's ideas on set, and seeing these, like, big time people doing it. I mean, that's huge to watch that, right? And I think so collaboration is not just like you're starting out in the film industry, and then you grow, and then you have this vision solidified, and you got it handled. It's a continuing learning process, and that was so inspiring to watch that for the 7 months that I was on that set.
So let's go to the third question. So la tercera pregunta es más, nos han hablado de su inspiración. You have talked about your inspiration, your challenges, collaboration. Now we're going to go into audience engagement. What is it that you expect? How do you hope that audiences react to your film?
The way I hope audiences react in a moving, emotional way, obviously, but one of the things that I hope kind of gets them going is I hope it starts a conversation about people who grew up in America. Sienna kind of touched upon it with her film, that people who grew up in America, but, like, they have this hyphenate identity to themselves, right? And that there are people out there who are like that, and this is their life, and this is who they are, and it is not. They are not any less of Puerto Rican, Mexican, Dominican, Peruvian, Ecuadorian, anything like that. But they are just as much included as everybody else. Even though they may not speak the language 100% fluent, they identify with themselves in that culture. So I hope it stirs up a conversation like that. I also hope it stirs up emotions for, cherishing every moment you had with your family. For those of you who are blessed enough to have, good parents or good siblings, aunt, uncle, cousin, whatever, people like that in your life, to cherish the moment, every single moment you have with them, because it can all end in an instant. And so I think that's the biggest thing I want them to take away. When they're done watching the film, they feel that they need to connect with their family more than they already do, that they need to build stronger connections to their parents, to their mothers specifically, since this story is about mothers, in particular, but that they're able to just, live life to the fullest, essentially, is what I want them to feel.
Well, Mapukutran is about illness, a kind of illness in Mapuche medicine that affects people, that disrespects nature. So people get really sick, like physically, when they don't ask for permission, when they, cut a tree or something. So I wanted to generate impact, like to take people to action, to make a difference. I don't know, like to take care of Mother Earth, because we are in a very difficult moment for our environment. So this film has been going all around the world in film festivals, but in my own country has been very difficult. So I make the decision to take out the movie from only festivals and take it to the streets and show it in parks. And I don't know, in the summer we went to a lot of parks, and it was a very great experience, because people that don't access to this content gave their opinion. And we also went with Mapuche communities to make like Q&As and conversations. And it was a very great experience, like connecting with people that was on a, on a Saturday, on a Sunday, on his weekend, or her weekend, and just watch a movie and then talk about.
Yep. Gracias por eso. Parte del trabajo que hemos hecho este año, según seguimos expandiendo localidades, es también eso. Es el presentar el trabajo, no siempre dentro de esta formalidad que a veces puede ser intimidante para miembros de nuestra audiencia, not the preferred setup, pero thank you so much for that, and gracias por tu trabajo. Okay, Sienna, talk to us.
I mean, I hope the audiences like it. That's probably one of the first things. I didn't realize like how vulnerable it is to, to share this film. It's funny because I make the film, you want to share it, and then when you're there, you're like, oh, that's when people are going to watch it and react to it and give their opinions. And because it's a film that is basically based on pretty much my life, it kind of feels like I'm also receiving just like their opinions and stuff on how I live and who I am as a person. But I think in the end, I'd rather go through all of that anxiety and whatnot, because it's just so important for our audiences to not only just like connect and watch with the film and just see like how other people live, but also to just kind of open their perspectives on people that are from other communities, and also people that are just in their communities, and just notice that we are as humans, regardless of whatever community that you're in, we are very much more similar than we are different. And especially like for me, like growing up, even though most of my friends were Asian American, and it was tough for me to really connect with other fellow like Latinos as well. Growing up, I kind of realized that, how important culture is to me, and like how, and also getting to, I guess, like relearn and get to explore it at an older age, which is like kind of exciting, because I guess when you're growing up, sometimes you can't really appreciate it because it's just there. But for me, I get to really appreciate the culture, and learning it is so beautiful, because I don't think that there is like a time limit to being connected with your culture. And also realizing that it's, a way that your ancestors want to connect with you, even though they're not here anymore, and hopefully making sure that you do well in your life, and hopefully that what they have done affects you and affects other people that are in your community and not in your community. And again, like having other people that are not Latino as well, I get to appreciate, like, oh, hey, I get to learn about your culture. We have similar things. Wow, this is really great. And it's just, I guess it just creates more of like that, I guess just like that bond that I guess that when we think America is, I guess that's what, like, I hope people watch this and realize, like, oh, this is what communities should be doing with each other, and just kind of celebrating that. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that, Andre.
For me, this movie is a personal letter that I write to the people. This film premiered in March this year in Fata Sport Film Festival, important in Portugal, and has 9 screens in 7 countries. For me, I always want my movies screening all over the world. Is important because the movies are made to see and not to be kept in an archive. The reactions of people told me that the movie touch their hearts and makes them think about who they are and about their origins. Before finalizing the edition, I tested the people's reaction by sending a private link to a group of people I know and asking for their opinions about the film.
Thank you so much, Maria.
For me, my passion and my goal has always been to normalize Latinos in every genre. I write, comedies, dramas, and actions. And for me, just growing up, I always wanted to see female leads in an action film. And that's what I set out to do. And I hope my film inspires and excites people to live in that space, to live in that genre. And for one of the most exciting things for me was when it screened at a festival, and a teenage girl came up to me and she said, I have always wanted to see a Latina on, doing an action film, and you've inspired me to direct my own action film. So that was incredible for me. I really, really love that, and it touched me. So yeah, just so, see ourselves on screen in that genre and in that space, and have it be normal. So I hope people, are excited by it.
For me, the biggest thing that I wanted from this film was for everybody to be aware that illegal detainments are very much happening. They were happening not only during the Trump administration, albeit it was on a much bigger scale during the Trump administration, but even happened during the Obama administration in Texas. And it's something that I don't even know what the stats are now during the Biden administration and where that's looking like. I was forwarded a New York Times link that specifically pointed me to Obama's administration and the Trump administration. I have no idea what's happening now, and I want to emphasize that because that's what's concerning, is that there's a lack of information about this issue that from what I've read has been targeting Latinos in Texas. And it just has flew under the radar for several years. And when people watch my film, they get angry when the ICE agent kicks the passport under the bed so that the family, you know, as they're searching for their passports, is not able to find it. And, you know, it obviously it makes for like great stakes. It makes for great drama and conflict in the film. But that was a tactic that was also used in real life, in which, you know, if there was a chance to cover up something or a chance for ICE agents to maybe not disclose the full information or even to do things to hide, you know, the families to prove their identities or their citizenship, you know, not saying all of them did, but, you know, there were cases and there were instances in which this was true. And for me, it has been so great to hear audiences wanting to learn more, wanting to know what is happening now, and if this was something from the past or if this still is happening today. There's a lot of questions that this film poses, and that's a great thing, is we need more questions in this day and age. And we need answers, of course, but it's nice that this film is inspiring people to do research and figure out what's happening.
Muchísimas gracias a todos ustedes por su trabajo. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your openness, for sharing with us in a way, you know, opening that window. People get to see the work and now they get to learn more about what makes you tick, what are some of the components, getting to meet some of your contributors through your, you know, capturing your journey and lifting those that have supported you, that have collaborated with you, that have inspired you. Thank you for inspiring us. And thank you for being part of the PHLAFF family and for sharing your work.